The Florida sun was beating down mercilessly that Tuesday afternoon when I pulled into our driveway in Coral Gables. I could feel the sweat already forming on my forehead as I stepped out of my beat-up Honda Civic. The humidity was suffocating, typical for Miami in August. I had just finished my shift at the local bookstore where I'd been working every day after college classes for the past 2 years. But today felt different. Today was supposed to be special. After 24 months of saving every penny, working double shifts on weekends, and eating ramen noodles for dinner, more nights than I cared to count, I finally had enough money to buy my dream car, a 2019 red Mustang convertible that I'd been eyeing at the dealership downtown. The owner, Mr. Rodriguez, had even agreed to hold it for me until today. I walked through our front door, my heart pounding with excitement. The air conditioning hit me like a wall of relief. Mom was in the kitchen, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun, stirring something that smelled like her famous Cuban black beans. Dad was sitting at the dining table, shuffling through what looked like bills and paperwork. Mom, Dad, I called out, barely able to contain my excitement. Today's the day. I'm finally going to get the Mustang. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom stopped stirring and slowly turned around. Her blue eyes, usually so warm and welcoming, looked troubled. Dad didn't even look up from his papers. Sweetie, Mom began, her voice shaky. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. Those 4 words never meant anything good in our house. What's wrong? I asked, setting my purse down on the counter. Dad finally looked up, and I could see the guilt written all over his face. His usually confident demeanor was replaced by something I'd never seen before. Shame. Emma, your sister got accepted into that art program in Paris, he said quietly. I blinked, confused. That's great news, but what does that have to do with? It's expensive, Mom interrupted. Really expensive. The program fee, the flight, accommodation, living expenses. It all adds up to about $15,000. My heart started racing, but not from excitement this time. A cold dread was creeping up my spine. We don't have that kind of money just lying around, Dad continued, still avoiding eye contact. Your mother lost her part-time job at the gallery last month, and my construction business has been slow because of the hurricane season. I still don't understand what this has to do with my car, I said, though deep down I was starting to piece it together. Mom walked over and sat down next to Dad. They exchanged a look that I'd seen 1,000 times before, the look they gave each other whenever they were about to tell me something I didn't want to hear. Emma, honey, Mom said, reaching out to touch my hand. We need to borrow your car money. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward. What? It's just a loan, Dad said quickly. We'll pay you back as soon as business picks up. I promise. I stared at them both, unable to process what I was hearing. You want me to give up my dream car so that Sophie can go to Paris? It's not like that, Mom said, her voice getting defensive. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for your sister. She's so talented, Emma. This program could change her entire future. And what about my future? I asked, my voice getting louder despite my efforts to stay calm. What about the 2 years I've spent working my ass off, saving every penny? What about all the double shifts and the ramen dinners? And the times I couldn't go out with friends because I was saving for this car? You're being dramatic, Dad said, and those words stung more than anything else he could have said. It's just a car, Emma. You already have a car that works fine. Just a car? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad, this isn't just about the car. This is about me setting a goal and working toward it. This is about my dreams mattering too. Of course your dreams matter, Mom said, but her tone suggested otherwise. But Sophie needs this more than you need a fancy car. And there it was, the truth that had been lurking beneath the surface of our family dynamics for years. Sophie needed. Sophie deserved. Sophie came first. I looked at both of them, these people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, who were supposed to support my dreams, just as much as they supported my sisters. The disappointment was crushing. Where is Sophie? I asked. She's at Melissa's house. Mom said. She doesn't know about this yet. Of course she didn't. They were going to present this to her as a gift. A wonderful surprise. They were going to be the heroes who made her dreams come true. and I was going to be the sister who graciously gave up her own dreams for the greater good. I need to think about this, I said, grabbing my purse and heading toward the door. Emma, wait, Dad called out. The deadline for the program is tomorrow. We need an answer tonight. I turned around and looked at him. You've already decided, haven't you? This isn't really a request. You've already told her she can go. The guilty look that passed between my parents was answer enough. I walked out of that house and got into my beat-up Honda, my hands shaking as I turned the key. As I drove away, I could see Mom standing in the doorway, watching me leave, but she didn't chase after me. She didn't call my name. She just stood there, and that told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in this family's hierarchy. I drove aimlessly through Miami for hours, the afternoon heat giving way to a slightly cooler evening breeze. I found myself at Bayfront Park, staring out at Biscayne Bay as the sun began to set. The water was calm, reflecting the orange and pink hues of the sky, and for a moment, I felt some peace. But that peace was shattered when my phone rang. It was Mom. Emma, sweetheart, please come home. We can discuss this. There's nothing to discuss, I said. You've made your decision. That's not fair. We're asking for your help. No, Mom, you're not asking. You're telling me what's going to happen, and hoping I'll go along with it quietly, like I always do. There was a long pause. Then, in a smaller voice, Mom said, "That's not true, isn't it? When Sophie wanted to go to that expensive private art school, who paid for it? When she crashed Dad's truck last year, who got yelled at for not teaching her to be more responsible? When she wanted to redecorate her room for the third time, whose college fund got raided? Emma, I'm tired, Mom. I'm tired of always being the understanding one. I'm tired of my dreams coming second to Sophie's whim." I hung up the phone and sat there in my car until it was completely dark. Finally, around 10 o'clock, I drove home. The house was quiet when I walked in. Sophie's car wasn't in the driveway. She was probably still at Melissa's, blissfully unaware that her dream trip was being funded by her sister's sacrifice. Mom and Dad were waiting for me in the living room. They looked up hopefully when I walked in. "We've been worried sick," Mom said. "I'll give you the money," I said quietly. The relief on their faces was immediate and overwhelming. "Oh, sweetheart. Thank you so much," Mom said, jumping up to hug me. "You don't know what this means to Sophie. To all of us. I know exactly what it means," I said, not returning her hug. Dad cleared his throat. "We really will pay you back, Emma. As soon as we can." I nodded, though I didn't believe him. In our family, promises to pay me back had a way of being forgotten as soon as the next crisis arose. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of the air conditioner working overtime against the Florida heat. I thought about the Mustang, sitting on the lot, waiting for someone who would never come. I thought about calling Mr. Rodriguez to tell him I wouldn't be able to buy it after all. I thought about the look on Sophie's face when she found out she was going to Paris. But mostly, I thought about how alone I felt in my own family. The next morning, I transferred the money to Dad's account and watched 2 years of my life disappear with a few clicks on my phone. Then I called Mr. Rodriguez and told him I wouldn't be buying the car. "I'm sorry to hear that, Misha," he said in his kind voice. "But don't worry. These things have a way of working out." If only he knew. Sophie came home that afternoon, practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. Mom and Dad had surprised her with the news over lunch. "Emma," she squealed, running up to hug me. "Can you believe it? I'm going to Paris." Mom and Dad said they found a way to make it work. I hugged her back because despite everything, I loved my sister. She was 2 years younger than me, with the same blonde hair as Mom, but Dad's green eyes. She'd always been the artistic one, the creative one, the one whose dreams seemed bigger and more important than mine. That's wonderful, Sophie, I said. You deserve it. And she did deserve it. In a way. Sophie was incredibly talented. Her paintings were beautiful, and she had a natural gift that I'd always envied. But that didn't make the situation any less painful for me. I can't believe it's really happening, she continued, practically vibrating with excitement. The program starts in 3 weeks, and I'll be there for 6 months. Can you imagine? 6 months in Paris. It sounds amazing, I managed to say. Over the next few weeks, our house became a whirlwind of preparation for Sophie's trip. There were shopping trips for new clothes, visits to get her passport expedited, and endless conversations about what she would study and see in Paris. Meanwhile, I continued going to work and school, watching my beat-up Honda get a little more beat up each day. The air conditioning had started making a weird rattling noise, and there was a new dent in the passenger side door, from where someone had hit it in a parking lot. But what hurt most wasn't the car situation. It was the way my parents talked about Sophie's opportunity. They told everyone who would listen about how proud they were, how talented she was, how this was going to launch her career as an artist. They never mentioned that it was funded by their other daughter's dreams. Sophie left for Paris on a Thursday morning. The whole family drove her to Miami International Airport, even though it meant I had to skip my morning classes. We stood in the departure area, taking pictures and making last-minute plans for video calls. I'm going to miss you so much, Sophie said, hugging me. I'll miss you too, I said. And I meant it. As we watched her disappear through security, Mom started crying. Our little girl is all grown up, she said to Dad, who put his arm around her. I stood there watching them, feeling like an outsider in my own family. Even in this moment, which was supposed to be about Sophie, I felt invisible. The drive home was quiet. We were all lost in our own thoughts. When we got back to the house, it felt empty without Sophie's energy filling it up. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I'm moving out, I announced. Mom and Dad both turned to stare at me. What? Mom said. I'm moving out. I found a small apartment near campus. It's not much, but I can afford it with my job at the bookstore. Emma, you don't need to do that, Dad said. You can stay here and save money. With what money? I asked. The money I was supposed to use for my car is now funding Sophie's Parisian adventure. Remember? We said we'd pay you back, Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. When? Next year? The year after that? Face it, you don't have the money to pay me back. And we both know it. You're being unreasonable, Dad said, getting that defensive tone he always got when he knew he was in the wrong. Am I? I'm 22 years old. Most people my age are already living on their own. The only reason I was still here was because I was saving for the car. But we're family, Mom said, and she looked genuinely hurt. Yes, we are, I agreed. But apparently, some family members matter more than others. I moved out the following weekend. My new apartment was tiny, a studio in a converted house about 10 minutes from campus. It had a kitchenette, a small bathroom, and just enough space for a bed and a desk. But it was mine. The first few weeks were hard. I was working more hours to cover rent and expenses, which meant my grades suffered a little. I was tired all the time, and there were nights when I lay in bed wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. But slowly, something started to change. Without the constant reminder of how I came second in my family's priorities, I started to find myself again. I made new friends at work. I joined a study group for my business classes. I started cooking for myself and discovered I was actually pretty good at it. And then, about 2 months after I moved out, something unexpected happened. I was working at the bookstore on a Saturday afternoon when a woman in her 50s walked in. She was well-dressed, with silver hair and kind eyes, and she browsed the business section for nearly an hour before approaching the counter. "Excuse me," she said, "but I've been watching you help customers today, and I'm impressed. You really seem to know your books." "Thank you," I said, not sure where this was going. "My name is Margaret Chen," she said, extending her hand. "I own a small marketing consulting firm here in Miami. I'm looking for a part-time assistant, someone with good people skills and attention to detail. Would you be interested in hearing more?" I stared at her, hardly believing what I was hearing. "You're offering me a job?" I'm offering you an interview, she said with a smile. But yes, I think you might be exactly what I'm looking for. The interview was the following Monday, and it went better than I could have hoped. Margaret's company was small but successful, with clients throughout South Florida. She needed someone to help with research, client communication, and general administrative tasks. The position pays $22 an hour, she said, at the end of our meeting. It's part-time to start, but there's potential for growth if things work out. I nearly fell out of my chair. $22 an hour was more than double what I was making at the bookstore. When can I start? I asked. How about next Monday? I started the new job with a mixture of excitement and terror. I'd never worked in an office environment before, and I was worried I wouldn't be good enough. But Margaret was patient and encouraging, and I found that I had a natural aptitude for the work. Within a month, I was handling client accounts on my own. Within 2 months, I was contributing ideas that Margaret actually implemented. And by the third month, she offered to increase my hours and give me a raise. You're a natural at this, Emma, she told me during my review. Have you ever considered marketing as a career? I hadn't, actually. I'd been majoring in general business because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. But working with Margaret had opened my eyes to a whole new world of possibilities. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents had become strained. We talked maybe once a week, usually stilted conversations about school and work. They'd ask if I needed anything, and I'd politely decline. They'd tell me about Sophie's adventures in Paris, and I'd listen with detached interest. Sophie and I stayed in better touch. She sent me pictures of her art classes, the Louvre, the Seine River. Her posts on social media were filled with beautiful shots of her new life. I was happy for her, but I also noticed something that my parents seemed to miss. She was struggling. It started with little comments during our video calls. How expensive everything was in Paris. How lonely she felt sometimes. How hard it was to make friends when everyone else in the program had more money than she did. I love it here, she would say, but it's not exactly what I expect. I wanted to ask her more, but I also didn't want to rain on her parade. This opportunity had cost me my dream car. The least I could do was let her enjoy it. But then, about 4 months into her program, Sophie called me crying. Emma, I don't know what to do, she sobbed into the phone. What's wrong? Are you okay? I'm so homesick, and I'm running out of money. The program costs are higher than we expected, and I've been trying not to ask Mom and Dad for more, because I know they don't have it. My heart ached for her. Despite everything that had happened, Sophie was still my little sister. Have you talked to them about coming home early? I asked. I can't do that. They sacrificed so much for me to be here. You sacrificed so much. I can't just give up. The guilt in her voice was heartbreaking. I realized that Sophie had been carrying the weight of knowing that my money had funded her trip, and it was eating her alive. Sophie, listen to me, I said. If you're not happy, you should come home. Money is just money. Your happiness and well-being are more important. But your car? Forget about the car. I'm doing fine without it. The question is, are you doing fine with the trip? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a small voice, she said, No, I thought this would be this amazing, life-changing experience. But mostly I'm just lonely and stressed about money. Then, come home, I said simply. Mom and Dad will be so disappointed. Let me worry about Mom and Dad. After we hung up, I sat in my small apartment for a long time, thinking. Then I picked up my phone and called my parents. Emma, Mom said, sounding surprised. How nice to hear from you. How are you doing? I'm fine, Mom. I need to talk to you about Sophie. Oh, isn't she doing wonderfully? Her last email sounded so positive. Mom, she's miserable. She's homesick. She's running out of money, and she's only staying because she feels guilty about the money you spent to send her there. There was a long pause. She didn't tell us that. Of course she did. She doesn't want to disappoint you. But she needs to come home. But the program isn't worth her mental health, and it's definitely not worth her staying somewhere. She's unhappy just because she feels obligated. I could hear Mom talking quietly to Dad in the background. What do you think we should do? Dad asked, getting on the line. I think you should call her and tell her it's okay to come home. Tell her that her happiness is more important than the money. We can't afford to buy her a new ticket home. Mom said quietly. I'll pay for it, I said without hesitation. Emma, no. We can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. She's my sister, and I love her. There was silence on the other end of the line. We don't deserve you, Dad said finally, his voice thick with emotion. No, I said, you don't. But that's not the point. The point is that Sophie needs to come home, and I can help make that happen. Sophie flew home 3 days later. I picked her up from the airport, alone. Mom and Dad had wanted to come, but I'd asked them to let me handle it. She looked tired and thinner than when she'd left. But when she saw me waiting for her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. Emma, she cried, running to hug me. Welcome home, Sophie. On the drive back to our parents' house, she told me everything. How isolated she'd felt. How different the program was from what she'd expected. How guilty she'd been about the money. I kept thinking about your car, she said. Every time I was unhappy, I thought about how you gave up your dreams so I could chase mine, and it made me feel even worse. Sophie, I need you to listen to me very carefully, I said, pulling over to the side of the road so I could look at her. What happened with the car wasn't your fault. That was Mom and Dad's decision, not yours. You have nothing to feel guilty about. But you worked so hard for that money. Yes, I did. And you know what? It turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. She looked at me skeptically. I'm serious. Moving out on my own forced me to become more independent. It led me to my new job, which I love and which pays way better than the bookstore. It helped me figure out what I actually want to do with my life. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best things. Are you just saying that to make me feel better? No, Sophie. I'm saying it because it's true. When we got to the house, Mom and Dad were waiting on the front porch. I watched as they hugged Sophie and welcomed her home, telling her how much they'd missed her and how glad they were that she was safe. It was a nice moment, but I noticed something important. For the first time in our family's history, they didn't try to put a positive spin on what had happened. They didn't act like Sophie's early return was just another adventure. They acknowledged that she'd been unhappy and that coming home was the right decision. It was a small thing, but it felt like growth. That evening, the four of us sat around the dinner table for the first time in months. It should have been awkward, but instead, it felt like we were finally having the honest conversations we'd been avoiding for years. Emma, Dad said, I owe you an apology. Several apologies. Actually, I looked up from my plate, surprised. We were wrong to ask you to give up your car money. We were wrong to assume you'd be okay with it. And we were wrong to make you feel like your dreams mattered less than Sophie. Mom nodded, tears in her eyes. We've been taking you for granted for years. You're always so mature, so understanding, so willing to sacrifice for the family. We started expecting it from you. That's not fair, Sophie added. You shouldn't have to be the family martyr just because you're older and more responsible. I felt my own eyes getting watery. I appreciate you saying that. All of you. We want to make it right, Dad. We know we can't pay you back the car money right now, but Dad, stop. I interrupted. I don't want the money back. They all stared at me. What I want is for us to be a family where everyone's dreams matter equally, where decisions like this get discussed with everyone involved, not decided behind closed doors, where sacrifice is voluntary, not expected. We can do that, Mom said immediately. Good. Because there's something I want to tell you all. I took a deep breath, nervous about what I was about to share. I've been working for a marketing consultant for the past few months, and I've discovered that I'm really good at it. Margaret, my boss, wants to help me start my own consulting firm. She has connections and clients who are looking for fresh talent. Emma, that's incredible, Sophie said. It is, but it would mean taking a big risk. I'd have to quit my other jobs, invest in equipment and marketing, maybe take out a small business loan. It's scary, but it's also exciting. It sounds like an amazing opportunity, Dad said. What do you need from us? Just your support. I'm not asking for money or help with the business side of things. I can handle that on my own. I just want to know that my family believes in me. Of course we believe in you, Mom said. We always have. Have you? I asked gently. Because for a long time, it didn't feel that way. The silence that followed was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of people who were finally being honest with each other. "You're right," Dad said finally. "We haven't done a good job of showing you that we believe in you. But that changes now." 6 months later, I was sitting in my own office, well, a shared workspace, but I had my own desk and everything, reviewing marketing plans for 3 different clients. My business was small but growing, and I was making more money than I'd ever imagined possible. The best part wasn't the money, though. It was the satisfaction of building something from nothing, of using my own skills and instincts to help other people grow their businesses. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. She'd enrolled in art classes at Miami-Dade College and was working part-time at a local gallery. Her text was a picture of her latest painting, a beautiful landscape of the Florida Everglades. "What do you think?" she'd written. "It's beautiful," I texted back. "Very you. Thanks. Hey, want to grab dinner tonight? My treat." "Sure. Where do you want to go?" "That new Cuban place on Calo Ocho. I heard their ropa vieja is amazing." As I was packing up my things to leave the office, Margaret stopped by my desk. "Great job on the Henderson account," she said. "They were thrilled with your presentation." "Thanks. I think they're going to see some real results from the social media strategy we developed." "I think so too. Hey, I have something for you." She handed me a small wrapped box. "What's this for?" "Open it and see." Inside was a set of keys attached to a keychain that said "Boss Lady." I looked up at her confused. "Come outside," she said, with a mysterious smile. In the parking lot, parked next to my beat-up Honda, was a red Mustang convertible, not new, but newer than mine would have been. It was beautiful. "Margaret, what is this?" "It's yours. Consider it a bonus for exceeding all my expectations, and a loan for your new business." The title's in the glove compartment. I stared at the car, then at her, then back at the car. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Emma, in 6 months you've helped me grow my business by 40%. You've brought in new clients, streamlined our processes, and shown initiative that most people twice your age don't have. You've earned this, but no buts. Besides, my husband just bought me a new car for our anniversary, and this one was just sitting in our driveway. It needs someone who'll appreciate it." I ran my hand along the smooth red paint, hardly believing this was really happening. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you," she replied, "for reminding me why I love what I do." That evening, I picked up Sophie for dinner in my new car. Her jaw dropped when she saw it. "Emma, where did you get this?" I told her the whole story. As we drove toward Cala Ocho, the warm Miami breeze whipping through our hair. We had dinner at the Cuban restaurant, talking and laughing like we used to when we were kids. Sophie told me about her art classes and her job at the gallery. "I'm proud of you," she said, over our flan dessert. "I'm proud of you too. You were brave enough to admit when something wasn't working and make a change. That takes courage. I learned that from you," she said. "Watching you start over after everything that happened showed me that it's okay to change course when you need to." When I dropped Sophie off at home, Mom and Dad came out to see the car. "Emma, this is beautiful," Mom said. "You've done so well for yourself. We're so proud of you." As we walked up to the front door, Sophie linked her arm through mine. "You're not lucky because you're sensible," she said. "You're lucky because you're brave. It takes courage to stand up for yourself and bet on yourself the way you did." Later that night, I sat in my small apartment, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. It had started with disappointment and betrayal, but it had led to independence and success. A year ago, I'd been living at home, working at a bookstore, dreaming of a car I couldn't afford. Now I was running my own business, living independently, and driving a car that was better than anything I could have bought with my original savings. Sometimes the best things come to us not when we're desperately chasing them, but when we're busy building a life we're proud of. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.